At 11:58 on a cold, rainy night, Jack Morgan stood alone at Ashcroft Station. According to the schedule, no train would arrive until morning. Yet something about the silence didn't feel right. Then, a train horn echoed through the rain. Jack looked toward the tracks. Two distant headlights were approaching, even though the station insisted no train should exist until tomorrow morning. The train rolled quietly into the station. It had no railway logo, no visible passengers, and no sound except the rain striking its metal body. The train stopped. One door slowly opened, spilling warm light onto the empty platform. But no one stepped out. Not yet. Finally, one passenger stepped onto the platform. An elderly man carrying a single weathered suitcase. No one else left the train. No one else had ever been there. The old man walked straight toward Jack and silently placed a railway ticket into his hand. Jack looked down. The departure date printed on it wasn't today. It was tomorrow. Jack unfolded the ticket beneath the platform light. The destination meant nothing to him, but the date did. It wasn't today's date. It was tomorrow. Jack looked up in confusion. Before he could ask another question, Elias simply pointed to the station clock. Midnight. The new day had begun, and somehow, the impossible ticket no longer seemed impossible. Without another word, Elias turned and stepped back onto the train. Before the door closed, he looked at Jack one last time, not with fear, but with quiet certainty. The train quietly disappeared into the night, but just before it vanished, Jack noticed something impossible on the last carriage, a maintenance plate dated tomorrow. Jack rushed into the station office and placed the ticket on the desk. The station master barely glanced at it before his face suddenly turned pale. The station master opened the official timetable. There was only one entry for the night. No trains between 11 and 6:30. He looked back at Jack and whispered, "Then what did you just see?" Without saying another word, the station master pulled out an old incident ledger. It hadn't been opened in years, but he seemed to know exactly where to look. Hidden inside the ledger was an old photograph. Jack's heart stopped. The man from the train, Elias Carter, had been standing on that very platform nearly 40 years earlier. The station master turned the photograph over. On the back, only 4 chilling words remained readable. Passenger number 1 never arrived. The station master closed the ledger and looked straight at Jack. That train has appeared only 3 times in the last 40 years, he said quietly. And every witness told the same story. It always arrives one day too early. The station master pushed an old brass key across the desk. "If you really want answers," he said quietly, "start in the archive room." Behind the old archive door, time seemed to stand still. Thousands of forgotten railway records surrounded Jack, and somewhere inside them, the truth about Train 307 was waiting. Most of the archive contained ordinary railway records, but one forgotten box carried a different label: Special Incident Files. Inside the box, one file looked different. Unlike the others, it wasn't covered in dust. Someone had opened it recently. Jack opened the confidential file. The investigation had begun on October 18th, 1986, and the case had never been officially closed. The next page contained another photograph. Jack froze. Elias Carter looked exactly the same as he did tonight. Not a single wrinkle older than the man who had just stepped off the train. A folded railway map slipped from the file. One route had been marked in red, and it ended at a station called Blackridge, a line officially closed nearly 40 years ago. Hidden inside the map was a single handwritten warning. If the train arrives, do not miss it twice. Jack had no idea who wrote it, but somehow it felt like the message had been waiting specifically for him. Near the end of the file, Jack found an old newspaper clipping. The investigation had never been solved. It had simply been suspended. Jack carried the file back to the station office. The station master looked at the old newspaper, closed his eyes, and quietly said, "I was here that night." The station master slowly removed his glasses. "I wasn't much older than you," he said. "I watched that train arrive with my own eyes, and I made one decision that has haunted me ever since." He pointed to a faded station map. "That mark," he whispered, "was me. I was the station clerk who reported the train in 1986. The station master placed the photograph beside the platform sketch. The positions matched perfectly. Whoever created the report had documented every detail with frightening precision. The final report contained only one confirmed fact. The train had departed with a single passenger. Jack slowly looked at the ticket in his hand and realized history was about to count a second. The station master opened an evidence envelope from 1986. Inside was another ticket, identical to Jack's in every detail, except for one name. Jack looked from one ticket to the other. Elias Carter had carried the first ticket in 1986. Tonight, the second ticket carried Jack Morgan's name. The serial numbers should have been unrelated. Instead, they followed each other perfectly, as if both tickets had been printed only moments apart. Without a word, the station master unlocked another cabinet. "If those serial numbers are real," he whispered, "this register will tell us when your ticket was actually printed." The register confirmed the first ticket. Elias Carter's ticket had been printed on October 18th, 1986. Until that moment, everything still made sense. Then, the station master found Jack's serial number. The register claimed it hadn't been printed yesterday or today. It was scheduled to be printed tomorrow. Beneath Jack's entry, someone had left a handwritten instruction. Deliver the ticket only if the passenger witnesses the arrival. It wasn't part of the official record. Outside, the platform was empty again. The station master closed the register and quietly said, "If this record is telling the truth, you'll see that train again tomorrow night." As morning arrived, every piece of evidence was locked away again. Every piece, except the ticket in Jack's pocket. In daylight, Ashcroft Station looked completely ordinary. But Jack had already made his choice. Tomorrow night, he would be waiting. As darkness returned, Jack walked back to Ashcroft Station.
This time, he wasn't searching for answers. He was waiting for the impossible to happen again.
The station clock crept toward 12:05. Jack looked at the ticket one last time. Whatever happened next, there would be no turning back. The clock struck 12:05. Every light flickered once, and a thin mist began drifting across the tracks. The train still wasn't there, but something had changed. Then, a single light appeared in the distance. Jack didn't move. He already knew exactly what was coming. The train emerged from the mist exactly as before. Same speed, same silence, as if the previous night had never ended. The door opened, and Elias Carter stepped onto the platform once again. This time, he looked directly at Jack, as though he had been expecting him all along. Elias stopped a few steps away. He looked into Jack's eyes and quietly said only 4 words. "You came back." Jack held out the ticket. Elias didn't take it. He simply looked at it and whispered, "That ticket was never meant to bring you here." Elias quietly pointed toward the open carriage. "The ticket was never meant to bring you here," he said. "It was meant to take you there." Jack climbed onto the first step, but stopped. One foot remained on the platform. The other rested inside the train. Between them, his entire future waited. Jack stood between 2 worlds. The warm light of the train touched one side of his face. The cold platform touched the other. For a moment, he couldn't tell which one belonged to him. Jack stepped inside. The carriage was warm, elegant, and completely empty. No passengers, no conductor, only Elias, standing silently in the doorway behind him. Jack carefully opened the envelope. Before reading the letter, he looked back at Elias. The old man simply nodded, as if he'd already read those words many years before. The first sentence stole the air from Jack's lungs. "If you are reading this, you finally chose to board." Someone had written the letter, knowing the choice he hadn't made until just seconds ago. The next sentence was even more disturbing. "You are not the first passenger, and I was not the first man to receive this letter." Without looking back, Elias finally spoke. "I received that same letter 40 years ago." In that moment, Jack understood something terrifying. Elias had never been waiting for the train. He had been waiting for him. Jack reached the final lines. "When your journey ends, leave this letter on seat 12. The next passenger will need it." The letter had never been written for just one man. Jack quietly returned the envelope to seat 12. Elias smiled for the first time, not because the mystery was over, but because the cycle had finally been broken. Jack stepped back onto the platform. Elias gave one quiet nod before the doors slowly closed between them. Neither man said goodbye. Neither needed to. The train vanished without a sound. The ticket was gone. In its place was a small brass tag engraved with a single word: returned. Jack finally understood. The train had never come to take his life. It had come to return his future. And somewhere beyond the darkness, another journey
had quietly come to an end.